All right, so the Buccaneers have a new quarterback. It is the always controversial Baker Mayfield, who has had one of the weirder starts to a career I think we've ever seen a player have, going from a first overall pick, was kind of a surprise first overall pick. Many thought Darnold should have been first overall that draft class. He was drafted first overall, and after 1 year, looked like it was the correct pick, as he was, incredible his rookie season. Had a bad year 2, but then a good year 3, and it was like, okay, this is who Baker Mayfield is, someone who can, in a good system, play well. Got banged up year 4 in Cleveland, and also just didn't play well on top of the injury, which resulted in him going to Carolina, which he played the worst football of his career. Then goes to the Rams, has a, nice little stint with them, which now earns him an $8.5 million deal with Tampa Bay. I don't know. Could we see potentially a Ryan Fitzpatrick type trajectory for Baker Mayfield? Maybe we could see that. It's possible. Again, that's what you're doing here, right? Is you're not trying to project what can happen or what will happen. You're trying to project what can happen. You're trying to project upside. That's the point of a Baker Mayfield signing here. There's better quarterbacks on the market. Jacoby Brissett, I would bet, would have a better year in Tampa Bay this year than Baker Mayfield would. But what's the upside with Jacoby Brissett versus what's the upside of Baker Mayfield? Mayfield's had such a volatile career, but we have seen some flashes. I think Tampa Bay is saying, let's take a chance on that 5% chance that we can revitalize Mayfield's career and he can, go back to being who he was when he was at his best. And if not, well, then it's not the end of the world. It's a 1 year, $8.5 million deal. We're okay with that. And I think that's what they're doing, which personally I like. Some people are going to say, well, you have Kyle Trask. If you have Kyle Trask, why not play him? You spent a second-round pick on Kyle Trask. You like him, clearly, so why are you just giving up on him? To me, this is just a clear, I said it at the time of the draft pick, and I think it's even more clear now. It was a terrible pick by Jason Light. That pick should never have happened. If you're willing to give up on Kyle Trask before he's even played an NFL game and he is sat behind Brady for 2 years, and you're bringing in someone to be the starter. Baker Mayfield's being brought in to be the starter. Now, he might not end up the starter for the whole season if he doesn't play well. If Trask outplays him in training camp, I'm assuming Trask will be the starter. I don't think Mayfield is, guaranteed that role or anything. He's going to have to win it, but he is going to win it, and he is going to be the starter. That's what's going to happen, barring something crazy. So you're already essentially saying we're not going to go into the season with Kyle Trask as our starting quarterback. And the fact that you gave up a second-round pick on it, a late second-round pick 64, but still, it was a second-round pick in a year where you had, you had a chance to win a Super Bowl the following year. They came so close to beating the Rams in that playoff game, came down to the final play, had to have more help there. Maybe they find a way to win it. Probably not with the draft pick itself, but maybe if you traded that draft pick for capital right then. Seems like that would have been the decision, and kind of surprising that they drafted Trask, who, again, this is something that some people are maybe coming to the realization now. At the time, I never understood the pick. I never felt like Trask was a particularly good prospect. Granted, quarterbacks are weird. Who knows if this stuff, but I don't think it was worth a second-round pick in general, especially not for a competing team. That pick made no sense to me. But at the same time, you still have him. There still is that, 5% chance that he could be successful. There's a 5% chance Baker Mayfield could be successful. Get these 5% chance guys, get a few of them, and see if one of them is successful. And if not, you suck next year. The reality is, a guy that has a 50% chance of being successful isn't walking through the doors on a cheap deal, right? You're going to have to pay that guy a lot of money, or it's going to be a draft pick, which you're going to have to trade up a ton to get. We saw how much Carolina had to trade up to go from 9 to 1. The reality is, Tampa Bay just not getting a quarterback this draft class, unless it's someone in the later rounds, which there are a couple good quarterbacks there. Maybe they'll take a flyer on someone later. I actually wouldn't hate that idea. Get someone in round 2 or 3 that could potentially still be good. And again, get as much of these 5% guys as possible, because if they don't work out, then you're okay, right? If Baker Mayfield plays like he played in Carolina and is atrocious, that's actually the second best case scenario. The best case scenario, of course, Mayfield's just awesome. Mayfield comes in, lights it up, and then cool, you have a quarterback. That's great. Probably not going to happen, but that's the best case scenario. The second best case scenario, he just sucks. Because then, what do? You put in Kyle Trask, and if Trask sucks, well, then you lose a bunch of football games. I think that's actually the one negative that some people have with this pick that I actually kind of understand is could Baker Mayfield play well enough to, excuse me, sorry, gonna have to leave that in here just because I'm trying to film this live to tape, so apologies for leaving the cough in there, but anyways, I think the one potential concern that some people have that I think is reasonable is could Baker Mayfield play well enough that he actually gets them out of a bad draft pick, but doesn't play necessarily well enough that you feel confident about him heading into the next year. What if he plays poorly but still wins you 6 games next year? That's possible. To be honest, with this roster, I just don't know if they're going to be competing for a first overall pick next year. Granted, again, there's several other teams that I think have higher upsides than Tampa Bay. I think actually basically every team has a higher upside than Tampa Bay. I don't see this team ceiling, but I do think they have a bit of a higher floor. They do have some, again, talent. I think their defense is still going to be good next year. I see, they might lose Levante David. That'll hurt a good chunk, but I think they should still be good. They still do have Mike Evans. They still do have Chris Godwin. I don't know what this team's ceiling is, but their floor is still pretty high, and I don't know if they're going to get a worst overall pick anyway, unless you had really bad quarterback play, which they might have gotten with Trask, probably not going to get with Mayfield. So that's maybe the concern. Should you have just full-on tanked for Caleb Williams? It's a reasonable thought. Teams just don't really do that. That's just not a thing that teams do. I guess some teams have thought about it. Certainly teams have made a shift midway through the year to start tanking, but I think that a lot of times teams don't want to go into the season with a terrible quarterback. I think part of it is, listen, Mayfield's going to sell some tickets. That's just part of the business is you do have to make money. These terrible seasons do hurt the fan base, and they just, did great work with the fan base, winning a Super Bowl. Fan base has never been more revitalized. So, I think they want to at least be able to give some wins there. Obviously, that's not the ideal way to win a championship, but that is a way that these teams view this stuff. But as a whole, I understand the logic behind it. There is some hope that this works out. Odds are it will not, and odds are this will be a one-year situation, but I could see Mayfield maybe playing well enough that he could get himself kind of in that sort of, maybe he could get himself into Ryan Fitzpatrick role, which would be interesting. But yeah, that's what I think about all this. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from y'all, and of course, as always, thanks for watching.